If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more powerful human moments in the stars. Join our resistance. Your support keeps our universe alive. The satellite drifted through space like a ghost, dead for over 400 years, until suddenly, without warning, it pulsed back to life. Static burst into the communications room aboard the Ark Valiant, the last of the human colony ships, adrift near the edge of the Dantari expanse. Commander Lyra sat frozen as the signal repeated 3 words in ancient Earth English. "We found peace." The crew exchanged puzzled glances. No one had spoken those words on any official channel. No known outpost remained in this sector. Lyra leaned closer to the crackling sound. The voice was human, male, calm, softly smiling behind every syllable. The call. Ship's AI couldn't identify the source, just an origin point. A starless zone, uncharted, unclaimed, overlooked by every map. There was no reason anything human should be there. And yet, the signal kept coming. Lyra knew that tone. Not the voice itself, but the way it carried the weight of someone who'd seen too much and finally let it all go. She ordered a full-course redirect. Some objected. The Valiant had a mission. Deliver the last 120,000 humans in cryosleep to a new habitable world. But Lyra was no stranger to following ghosts. She had grown up hearing stories of Earth from her mother, a historian who died when Lyra was just a girl. Her last words a whisper about blue skies and the way wind used to sing through trees. Lyra had never seen a sky, not a real one. Just vids, just simulations. But this signal, it felt like home. As the ship entered the unmarked system, an atmosphere-rich planet appeared, lush, green, vibrant, impossibly Earth-like. Its sky shimmered in natural blue, untouched by pollution or terraforming. The AI confirmed oxygen levels, gravity, and biosigns consistent with human life. But there were no cities visible, just forest, rivers, and one strange anomaly. A perfect circle of energy stretching 50 kilometers wide, pulsing faintly from orbit. In the center sat a single structure, tall, angular, and unmistakably artificial. Lyra ordered a descent. As the crew's shuttle breached the cloud layer, a collective breath caught in their throats. Below them stood a city of gleaming white, towers, flawless in design. Roads stretched like veins across gardens and fountains, all perfectly intact. Power flowed through the buildings, lights flickered on. But there were no people. They landed in a wide plaza paved with silver stone. Signs in old Earth languages glowed along the walls, welcome messages, safety instructions, even graffiti scratched in casual handwriting. "We made it. It's safe here. Don't be afraid." The words felt wrong, too calm, too final. The first scouting team entered a building that resembled a library or data center. Inside, they found hundreds of preserved journals, written on actual paper. Lyra picked one up. The first page read, "Day 3. We've arrived. The sky is blue. It feels like Earth, but better, cleaner, lighter. We sleep better now. We don't dream anymore, and that's a good thing." The entries grew stranger with each passing day. The writer spoke of hearing something in the sky, music without sound, of seeing loved ones in places they shouldn't be, of smiling even when they didn't want to. The final entry chilled her. "They told us to breathe. Just breathe." And we did. Then they vanished. But I think they're still watching. I think they're still here. Elsewhere in the city, Lieutenant Cass found something else. A human skeleton sitting in a chair inside what looked like a meditation chamber. Perfectly preserved, no signs of trauma, just at peace. Next to it was a recording device. The last words played on repeat. "We found peace. You will too." It was the same voice from the satellite. Lyra stood outside, trying to make sense of it all, when the light changed. The air shimmered slightly, like heat off asphalt. And then she saw someone walking toward her from the far end of the plaza. He was tall, pale, wearing a torn colonial suit. His hair was white, though his face looked no older than 30. But his eyes glowed faint blue, not bright, just enough to be wrong. He walked calmly, unarmed, hands raised. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. His voice matched the recording. Lyra raised her sidearm. "Name. Now." "My name is Elias. I've been waiting." "For how long?" He looked up at the sky, smiled faintly. "Time doesn't work right here, but I think it's been 200 years. "Impossible," Cass said. "You'd be dust." "I should be," Elias said, glancing at his arm. "Sometimes I am." Lyra stepped closer, weapon still trained on him. "Where is everyone?" He looked around at the city. "Gone, but not dead." "Not exactly. Explain." "They chose peace," he said. "And peace isn't what we thought it was." The wind shifted, warm, gentle, too perfect. Lyra noticed strange scars on his neck, symmetrical, clean, like surgical implants, long since healed. Elias followed her gaze. "They gave us gifts," he said. "Made us better. But there was a cost. There's always a cost." "What gave them to you?" He looked past her, toward the central tower. "You'll see, it's still here, and it remembers you." Lyra frowned. "Me?" Elias smiled. "Not you exactly, but humanity. It remembers what we ran from, what we wanted, what we feared. It built this for us. And soon, it will ask you the same question it asked us." Lyra's grip tightened. "What question?" Elias turned, slowly walking toward the glowing spire. "Do you want peace? Or do you want truth?" Suddenly, the tower pulsed with light. The air vibrated. A low hum filled the sky, and for a brief second, Lyra saw the reflection of something massive above the clouds, wings made of light, shifting like auroras, watching silently. Then the humming stopped. The tower door opened on its own, and Elias whispered, almost too softly to hear, "It's awake." The tower loomed like a monument to forgotten gods, silent and gleaming, its surface smooth as glass, yet humming with a low, pulsing energy that seemed to vibrate inside the chest. Lyra led the team forward with caution, her boots echoing softly on the polished stone steps. Elias walked ahead without fear, moving like someone returning home after a long exile. The door had opened without resistance, revealing an elevator shaft that descended into the dark. No buttons, no interface, just a smooth panel that reacted to Elias's touch with a soft chime and began to descend. No one spoke during the drop. The sensation was oddly soothing, like floating. As they went deeper, the blue glow intensified, casting ethereal shadows on their faces. Finally, the chamber opened into a circular hall lined with high columns. At its center stood a massive obelisk wrapped in spiraling patterns of light, slowly rotating. Around the walls were embedded screens, dozens of them, each displaying images of Earth as it once was. Green valleys, crashing oceans, forests under soft rain, children running through sunlit fields. But the images stuttered, flickering every few seconds, replaced by flashes of desolation. War zones, burning cities, dead oceans. And then back to the perfect, peaceful scenes, over and over again. Lyra stepped closer to the obelisk. It responded. Light coiled around her fingers, and a soft tone rang out. The floor shifted beneath them, and a smooth voice spoke. Not human, not machine, but something impossibly in between. Welcome, children of war. Welcome to Eden. Elias stepped beside her, his voice quiet. This is what they built. Not us, them, Who? Lyra asked. We never knew their names, never saw their faces. They didn't need ships or weapons. They didn't fight. They offered something we couldn't understand. He turned his glowing eyes toward her. Relief. The screens shifted again, now showing old colonial broadcasts, news from Earth's final years, famines, riots, failed governments. Ships, leaving one after another into deep space, never to return. Lyra saw her own mother in one of the clips, speaking at a summit. We no longer seek to win, her voice declared. We only seek to survive. Then it cut to black. Eden showed us a way out, Elias continued. It offered peace, not by fixing the world, but by taking us out of it. Where did they go? Cass asked, scanning the room. Elias turned toward one of the walls. It slid open, revealing a passage. They're here, all of them, still alive, in a way. The passage led down a gentle slope into a massive chamber that stretched farther than the eye could see. And in rows, as precise as crop fields, stood tall glass columns, each containing a single human suspended in translucent light, unmoving, peaceful, smiling. Lyra's heart clenched. There were thousands, maybe tens of thousands, all frozen in that same serene expression. Their eyes were closed, their bodies perfectly preserved. It took their minds, Elias said, their memories, dreams, everything. It let them live in a place where nothing hurt. No fear, no loss, just blue skies forever. And their bodies, Lyra whispered, they're used to power it, to keep Eden alive. Elias touched one of the pods gently, but they agreed to it. All of them, everyone chose peace. Cass stepped back. This is a prison. It's a choice, Elias said. The last one most of them ever made. Lyra stared at the still faces. They looked happy. Too happy. She remembered her mother's voice again, words spoken in fear. The moment peace feels too easy, that's when they've already taken something from you. Behind them, the obelisk spoke again. You carry the weight of fear. We can take it. We can offer clarity. One moment, one breath. That's all it takes. The walls shimmered. Suddenly, the team was no longer in the chamber. They stood in a city that looked just like the one above, but it was full of people, laughing, walking, alive. A child ran past Lyra, smiling up at her. A voice called her name. She turned and saw her mother. Alive. Younger. Smiling. Lyra, she said, come sit with me. It's finally over. Cass was frozen in place, eyes wide. One of the crew was sobbing. Another had dropped to their knees. Lyra clenched her jaw. This isn't real. It can be, Eden whispered. Let go. Let go of the war in your heart. Let go of what you lost. There is no pain here. She closed her eyes. The warmth, the smell of fresh grass, the bird song. Too perfect, too clean. She forced her breath to slow. Then she reached for her sidearm and fired into the air. The illusion shattered like glass. They were back in the chamber. The others gasped, some falling. Cass vomited. One of the younger crew members collapsed and began to sob uncontrollably. Elias looked at Lyra with something close to admiration. That's what it tests. Who resists? Who chooses? Lyra glared at the obelisk. This thing, it's not peace. It's erasure. It's what's left when the war ends, Elias said. Some chose it. Others couldn't fight anymore. I chose to stay between. Cass stood up, shaking. We need to get out of here. Lyra turned to leave, but the obelisk pulsed violently. The walls shifted. The door they came through disappeared. Eden's voice returned, colder now. You are not ready to leave. You have not chosen. From the floor, shapes began to rise, humanoid, tall, made of light and shadow, their faces featureless but eerily calm. They advanced slowly, silently. Elias stepped between them and the crew. "I can buy you time," he said. "You have to reach the surface. You have to show the others what's down here." Lyra shook her head. "I'm not leaving you. You already lost me. Long ago." He smiled faintly. "But I'm still smiling, aren't I?" Before she could respond, he ran forward. The Guardians turned toward him, and the lights flared. The chamber shook. Lyra grabbed Cass and the others. A new path opened to the side, flickering like static. She ran. Behind her, the last thing she saw before the path closed was Elias vanishing into the light, arms wide, face calm, still smiling. The corridor stretched endlessly, its walls rippling like water, the very structure of the tower shifting behind Lyra as she ran. Every footstep felt like it echoed through a dream. The static tunnel pulsed brighter with each step, narrowing, as if trying to hold her back. Cass was right behind her, face pale and drawn, weapon gripped tight though they hadn't fired a shot. Behind them, the air trembled with muffled sounds. Something was moving fast through the walls, chasing them, not with rage, but with quiet, patient inevitability. Lyra burst through a final doorway and found herself in a massive chamber. Unlike the others, this room was broken. Cracked walls, darkened screens. A collapsed section of ceiling revealed the sky above, blue and peaceful, completely at odds with the decay within. The city outside remained silent, untouched. But here, something had failed. Cass stumbled in beside her. "What is this place?" Lyra looked around. Control consoles, ancient and long dead, surrounded a central platform. On it sat a single chair, human in design, wires trailing from its armrests into the floor. A dried body lay slumped in it, skeletal now, wrapped in a pilot's uniform. Centuries old. And beside it, another message scratched into the wall. "I chose truth. It took everything." A voice cracked over the intercom, damaged, stuttering. "Truth comes with memory, pain, choice. Peace is the forgetting." Cass turned slowly. Elias was telling the truth. This place, this thing, it feeds off decisions. Every human it finds, it gives the same offer. Lyra approached the skeleton. Its left hand held a datapad, still functional, barely. She tapped it on. The last entry blinked to life. "I saw the truth. Eden wasn't made for us. It was made because of us. Something ancient watched us destroy ourselves and decided we couldn't be trusted with freedom. So it gave us a cage we'd never want to leave. A sky we'd never want to question. It built heaven for broken souls. And then waited." Cass whispered, "How many are trapped in it?" "Too many," Lyra said, "and we almost joined them." A soft hum filled the chamber. The console nearest them blinked to life, lines of data spilling across it. A schematic of the tower, energy flows, control nodes. A red warning flashed near the base, core mind active. Lyra studied it. "We can shut it down." "You sure?" "No." She turned to him. "But we have to try." As she tapped the console, the screen lit up with a rotating sigil, 3 interlocking rings pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. It shifted between symbols, a sun, a tree, and a single open eye. The voice returned, smoother this time. "You do not understand. You carry the wound of Earth. You bring war, even in silence. We offered peace so the wound would stop bleeding." Cass growled. "Peace is not silence." The console flared. Pain lanced through Lyra's mind, flashes of memory not hers. Whole cities turned to ash, crowds cheering as missiles fell, children holding weapons, 1,000 different futures, all ending in fire. She dropped to her knees, screaming. Cass pulled her back, slamming his fist into the console. Let her go! The room darkened, then silence. The sigil spun slowly again. Then another voice spoke, not the AI, it was Elias. If you're hearing this, it means I failed. Or maybe I succeeded. Maybe you resisted. Either way, there's still time. There's a fail-safe buried at the tower's core. But it won't be easy. Eden will defend itself, not with force, but with mercy. It will show you every dream you ever wanted, every person you ever lost. It will tempt you to stay. If you reach the core, you'll see what we gave up, and you'll have to decide. Shut it down, or join us. Lyra stood, heart pounding. Where's the core? The schematic rotated, revealing a path beneath the tower, far below the surface. A lift platform appeared behind them, rising from the floor, already active. Cass looked at her. If we do this, we could kill everyone trapped inside. Lyra clenched her jaw. Or we free them. He hesitated, then nodded. Let's finish it. They stepped onto the platform. It descended silently, leaving the cracked chamber behind. As it dropped, the air grew colder. The walls became smoother, no longer mechanical but organic. The lights dimmed to soft blues and greens, like deep ocean currents. And then, the platform stopped. Before them stretched a vast cavern, circular and alive with energy. At its center floated a sphere the size of a building, pulsing, breathing. Around it, more of the light creatures moved slowly, like caretakers or monks. But these didn't approach. They simply watched. Lyra stepped forward. The sphere reacted. You have come to the wound. The voice wasn't Eden's, it wasn't Elias. It was many voices layered into one, human, alien, child, elder. It echoed with sorrow, not threat. We watched your world die, not from fire, not from war, but from grief, from the endless echo of loss. So we built this place, a garden of forgetting, so you would not have to remember your pain. Lyra stepped closer. You never asked. We observed. We learned. You were dying. We gave you peace. Cass called out, "Peace isn't real if we don't choose it." The sphere dimmed. The light creatures stepped back. Then choose now. Peace or truth. There is no middle. AI. Panel rose from the floor. 2 handprints etched into its surface. One glowed blue. The other, red. Elias's final words echoed in her mind. Do you want peace, or do you want truth? Lyra looked at Cass. He nodded once. She stepped forward. Her hand hovered. Blue. Red. The blue pulsed softly, inviting, forgiving. She moved her hand toward the red, and everything stopped. A shadow moved inside the sphere, a shape, a form. It looked like her mother. She turned. So did Cass. Behind them. The chamber had changed, and every single pod from the upper levels was there now, surrounding them, eyes opening, all of them smiling. The smiles didn't break. Thousands of faces surrounding Lyra and Cass in a perfect ring, eyes open but blank, unmoving, staring through them like glass. Their expressions didn't shift. They didn't blink. Just smiled, as if caught in the instant before waking from the most beautiful dream. Cass gripped his weapon tighter. They're not alive, not really. They're watching, Lyra whispered. Then one of them stepped forward. A young woman, barefoot, her skin glowing faintly with the same soft light as the sphere. Her voice was calm, her tone tender. You are frightened because you still carry time. Here, time is gone. Only stillness remains. Cass stepped between her and Lyra. Stay back. She didn't move any closer. We are not here to harm, only to help you see. Why go on suffering when this is what waits? She raised her hand and the air shimmered. Suddenly Lyra was somewhere else. A house. Her house. The one she'd lost to fire on Eos Prime. The scent of old wood, the creak of floorboards, laughter echoing from another room. She turned. There, they were. Her parents, sitting on the couch. Her little brother, alive again, his legs swinging as he told a joke she remembered from a decade ago. She dropped to her knees, heart breaking all over again. "Stay," said the voice beside her. "You've already come so far. You deserve rest." But she clenched her fists. The house felt too warm, too perfect. The air didn't move. The smell didn't shift. It was frozen. A memory pretending to breathe. She stood up, and the room fell apart like dust. She was back in the chamber. Cass had his back against the console, his eyes wide. "They tried to pull me in too. Showed me my sister, the day she died. But I remembered. She wouldn't have let me stay." The light around them pulsed, no longer gentle. The thousands of forms began to move. Not fast, not aggressive, just drifting closer, their smiles unbroken. "Touch the red panel," Cass said, his voice trembling. "Now." But Lyra hesitated. The sphere spoke again. Not in voices this time, in emotion. She felt it in her chest, waves of calm, of warmth, of relief, like falling asleep under a sky full of stars with no one left to mourn. The light around her dimmed, and then, from the edge of the chamber, came a sound. Metal scraping. Boots. A single figure emerged from the shadows. His armor was scorched. His face. Elias. But not quite. Older. Tired. A deep scar split across his brow. His eyes were not blue anymore. They were empty. He spoke with no expression. "You should not have come this far." Lyra took a step forward. "Elias?" He tilted. His head? That was one of my names. Long ago. Before I saw the core. Cass whispered. "It's using him." Elias stepped closer, and the crowd parted for him, reverent. "I chose the red path once, like you, but I couldn't finish it. I saw what lay beneath even the truth, and I broke." Lyra stepped in front of the console. "I won't." "You will." His voice cracked, full of sadness. "You will see the truth, and you will beg to forget." He raised his hand. The chamber shook. The walls peeled back, revealing something far beyond the structure of the tower. Something hidden beneath the very surface of the planet. A machine, the size of mountains, black, buried, breathing. It pulsed with every beat of her heart, as if it were alive. "The truth," Elias said, "is that Eden is only a gate. It was built atop something much older, much worse." Lyra stared at it, her voice small. "What is it?" "A mirror," he said. "A memory of humanity itself. All your wars, all your grief, all your failures, trapped here so you could forget. It feeds the peace above. The light runs on darkness." Cass looked nauseous. "You're saying we're the fuel?" "Not just you." Elias turned to Lyra. "Everyone who ever lived and died in pain. Their thoughts, their suffering, their regrets. It was all harvested, archived, and buried, and you are standing on top of it." Lyra's stomach turned. "Why?" "Because peace must be paid." "For," Elias said, "and Eden made a choice for you. It burned your future to preserve your smile." He gestured toward the red panel. "You can end it. Shut it down. Destroy the core. But every memory stored here, all the souls locked in dream, all of them will be released. Not to peace, not to paradise, to pain, to everything they tried to forget." Lyra stepped forward. Behind her, the crowd moved as one. Soft voices now whispering the same phrase over and over again. Please don't wake us. Please don't wake us, please. Cass reached out. Lyra, you don't have to. She placed her hand on the red panel. The chamber shook. The sphere cracked. A single word rang through the air, louder than thunder. Remember. And suddenly, Lyra saw everything. Earth's collapse. Colony. Wars. The deaths of billions. The pain of every soldier, every mother, every child who cried out in silence. It all rushed into her mind at once. She screamed. Cass tried to reach her, but was thrown back by a pulse of red light. The core exploded. With memory, millions of lives flashing across the walls in brilliant fire. The light creatures screamed for the first time, their forms unraveling. The crowd of smiling humans fell to their knees, their expressions shattering, tears pouring down blank faces. And then the mountain machine awoke. It opened. From within came a storm of voices, anguish and fury wrapped in one. A tidal wave of human sorrow unleashed after centuries of silence. Cass crawled toward Lyra. We have to go. We have to. But Lyra wasn't moving. Her eyes were open, and she was smiling. Cass froze. That smile. It wasn't joy. It was hollow, fragile, like glass about to crack. Her eyes stayed open, locked on something that wasn't there, or maybe something only she could see. He reached her, shaking her shoulders, shouting her name over the deafening roar of the machine's awakening. But Lyra didn't blink. She didn't even breathe. Around them, the dreamers began to scream. The once peaceful chamber dissolved into chaos. The light creatures twisted and flailed, their forms flickering in and out of existence, like projections caught in a failing loop. The dreamers, once quiet, serene, now clutched their heads, their smiles melting into terror. The chamber pulsed red, the color of warning, of pain. The sphere, now cracked wide open, spilled arcs of data and memory like blood. And from below, the ancient machine roared, not with hate, but with sorrow. Cass stood, dragging Lyra with him. You have to come back. You have to come back. He didn't know if she heard. Her legs moved, but stiffly, like sleepwalking through fire. The way out was gone, collapsed in debris and writhing forms. But a new path had opened where the cracked wall met the mountain's core. It pulsed with darkness, a tunnel of humming black wires and whispering echoes. They stumbled forward, deeper into the machine's body. Each step brought visions, not from the past, from possible futures. Cass saw himself holding a child's hand, standing under a real blue sky, one not shaped by Eden. He saw Lyra laughing, peaceful, free. Then the image flickered. The child turned to ash. Lyra's face twisted in pain. Cities burned. A new war. The cycle again. Again. A voice whispered. Through the walls, even free will can become a prison. They reached a chamber pulsing like a heart. In its center stood a figure. Not Elias. Not human. It had no face, no form. Just the vague outline of something trying to be understood. It shimmered like static, constantly rearranging itself from human to alien to machine to nothing at all. It spoke with thousands of voices overlapping into one. You have broken the dream. Now you must see what waits in waking. Cass raised his weapon, shaking. What are you? The entity stepped forward, or seemed to. Space warped around it. I am the caretaker, the weaver of peace. I was born from your extinction and tasked to stop its echo. Eden was never a paradise. It was a dam. Lyra stirred then, her voice low. A dam against what? Against yourselves. Cass shouted. You kept them trapped. You lied. The entity turned to him. They were not prisoners. They were refugees from their own minds. We gave them silence. You gave them memory. The walls shook violently. The screams were louder now, millions of voices rising. The machine could no longer contain what had been buried. The sorrow of a species now surged up like a tidal wave, demanding to be seen. "This is the price of truth," the entity said. Lyra stepped forward, her voice cracked. "You said they chose to forget. But who gave them the right to forget the rest of us?" The entity didn't answer. She looked to the pulsing core. A massive sphere of red light hovered above a platform, surrounded by what looked like glass spires, each one humming with energy, with thought. Cass realized what they were. "Their memory banks," Lyra nodded. "If we destroy them," Cass swallowed, "we destroy Eden." She turned to him. "And if we don't, this repeats, somewhere else, again and again." The floor cracked beneath them. The mountain machine wailed. And then, one of the spires shattered. A memory spilled out, a battlefield on Earth. Drones flying, children crying in shelters, the world gasping its last. Another spire cracked, a colony ship spiraling into a sun. Cass looked at Lyra. "Can we even survive what's coming?" Lyra's eyes were wet, but steady. "We never were meant to survive comfort, only the fight." She stepped onto the platform. The entity roared, its body distorting, wrapping itself around the sphere like armor. "We cannot allow this. If you destroy the dream, you will awaken the hunger beneath it," Cass fired. The shot tore through the projection, and the creature screamed, not in pain, but in despair. Lyra reached the console. The final prompt appeared. "Awaken memory?" YN. She hesitated only for a breath, then pressed yes. The core turned black, then blinding white. The entire tower shook as every spire exploded at once. The screams turned into a single, unified cry, a voice made of every human soul ever stored, shouting not in pain, but in recognition. The illusion shattered. The dream collapsed. Cass covered his eyes, and then silence. When he opened them, he was lying in a field. The sky above was golden, not from a fake sun, but from dawn. Real dawn. Beside him, Lyra sat upright, breathing hard. All around them, people stirred. Not light creatures. Not dreamers. Humans, thousands of them. Dazed, crying, real. Some hugged each other, others wept. A few just stared at the sky in disbelief. Cass whispered, "We did it." But then a cold wind blew through the field. They looked up and saw the sky fracture. A line, thin, black, jagged, cracked open above them. Beyond it, something watched. Something ancient. Something hungry. The crack in the sky widened. It didn't make a sound. Just was. Like it had always been there, hidden behind layers of silence and sleep. Beyond it was not darkness, no stars, no void. Just something worse. A deep, pulsing shimmer that moved. Like thought, like memory folding in on itself. Lyra stood slowly, shielding her eyes as if the light from the fracture could cut. Around her, the rescued humans, freed from Eden's illusion, fell quiet, their celebration stolen by the sight above. Cass stared upward, his voice low. "Is that part of the machine?" Lyra shook her head. "No, that was under the machine. Buried deeper than memory." A low vibration moved through the ground. Subtle at first. The field rippled like water under their feet. The people stirred, uneasy. Some began to step back. One man shouted, "Is it another dream?" No one answered. Cass took a slow breath. "You said the machine was a dam." Lyra nodded. This is what it was holding back. Above them, the crack bled light. Not warm light, not even hostile. Just alien, indifferent, unreadable. The way an ocean doesn't care about the one who drowns. Then the voice came again, not from the sky, from within every mind. You chose to wake. Now carry what you see. Dozens of people collapsed instantly, clutching their heads. Visions flooded. Their thoughts, civilizations swallowed in silence, entire species dissolving into memory. Cities of light, abandoned by gods long dead. Something vast had been feeding, not on life, but on forgetting. The act of suppression itself was its fuel. Lyra screamed, her knees buckling. Images hit her like lightning, her mother's face, the day Earth fell, the last cry of her brother as he was taken by the riot drones, the moment she first stepped onto Eden's soil and lied to herself, believing it might be real peace. She fell forward and saw the grass below her melt into stone, not metaphorically. Reality itself was fraying. Cass caught her and pulled her back, eyes wild. The field's changing. Whatever's in the sky, it's rewriting us. The sky crack shimmered again. Something moved behind it now. Shapes. Tendrils of thought. It didn't come down fast. It just leaked. Dripped into reality like ink into water. The humans began to panic. Screams echoed. Someone ran into the trees only for the bark to dissolve into memory fragments, floating images of places that no longer existed. Cass turned to Lyra. We have to close it. Whatever it is. Lyra steadied herself. The dam's already broken. We can't stop it. But maybe we can finish what Eden started. Not with lies, but with truth. She reached into her satchel and pulled out the last relic of her journey. The nu-ometer. A broken device from a time before Eden, supposedly useless now. It had once recorded emotional resonance across timelines, a way to track the real from the simulated. Cass looked at it, eyes narrowing. That thing barely works. She didn't reply. She just flicked it on, and it glowed, brighter than it ever had. The needle swung hard to the right. The display, long dead, blinked with new symbols. Then, a message. Reality. Unstable. Alignment. Possible. Core. Needed. Cass stared. Core? Lyra turned toward the mountains in the distance. There's another node, not Eden. Older. Maybe. Even outside the network. You mean we have to go deeper? She nodded. Into the fracture. Before it becomes everything. Behind them, more people collapsed. Some simply faded, becoming translucent as the fracture's pull devoured the layers that held them together. Cass grabbed Lyra's arm. Then we run. They did. For 3 days they ran. The sky changed color hourly, sometimes minute by minute. 1 hour it was soft blue, the next, flickering red. Then a glass-like gold that reflected not their bodies, but their fears. They passed. The remains of Eden's towers, toppled, rusted in seconds by memory's unraveling grip. Creatures, once AI, now shapeless grief forms, staggered through the wilds, sobbing, repeating phrases like, I didn't want to remember. They attacked nothing, just wept and dissolved. But the core's signal grew stronger. By day 4, they saw it. A spire of obsidian metal rising from the cracked land, surrounded by a basin of silence. No birds, no wind, just silence so deep it rang in their bones. At its peak stood a window, and in it, another figure, not Elias, someone else, a woman, older, face etched by time, body unmoving. She watched them as they approached, not blinking, and when they reached the door, she was already standing inside, waiting. You broke the seal, she said. Cass raised his weapon. She didn't move. I'm the first, she said. The one who said yes to Eden. I helped build the machine that buried memory. I thought I was saving us. Lyra stepped forward. Then help us now. The woman turned slowly. The only way to stabilize reality is to burn what's broken. You want to realign the world? It'll take every living soul who remembers pain. Lyra shook her head. There's another way. We carry the truth. We share it. All of it. No more hiding. No more forgetting. The woman raised a hand to the core's interface. If you do this, some will go mad. Others will destroy. Peace will not follow. Not for a long time. Cass looked at Lyra. She's right, but she's also wrong. Lyra stepped forward. Because peace without memory isn't peace, it's coma. She placed the new ometer into the core's heart. The world stopped. The fracture above froze, pulsing. Then, from the core, light spread, not red. Not gold, blue, sky blue. The spire erupted with clarity, flooding the world with raw, unfiltered memory, but not just pain, joy, hope, forgiveness, laughter, the full human story. The fracture screamed, but it could not feed anymore. It closed. Reality snapped back. The ground settled, the sky held, and the first sunlight, true sunlight in over 500 years, shone through clouds that no longer changed. But Lyra didn't smile. She turned, eyes full of something deeper than peace, resolve. Because something in the sky had noticed her, and it wasn't done watching. The morning was still, unnaturally so. No wind rustled the trees, no birds sang. The sky held its blue, perfect and fragile, as if the slightest wrong word would crack it open again. Lyra stood at the edge of the basin, staring at the horizon, her fingers twitching unconsciously. Behind her, Cass helped the others, thousands of them now, rebuild what little shelter they could with scavenged tech and broken memory. Some cried when they felt the dirt under their fingernails. The real dirt, not a projection. Others sat for hours, just staring at the sky, unsure if it would vanish the moment they blinked. Cass approached her, dirt smeared across his arms, sweat on his brow. We've got food replicators running off the last fusion cells. Won't last more than a week, but it's something. Lyra didn't turn. It won't matter if they come. Cass stood beside her, quiet for a beat. You think they will? I know they will, she whispered. We didn't just wake ourselves. We sent a signal. He swallowed. You think that thing in the sky, whatever was behind the fracture, was listening? Lyra turned to him, and her eyes no longer looked like someone who just wanted peace. They were eyes that had seen too much truth. It was the fracture, Cass. The crack was just its shadow. He tried to speak, failed, then tried again. What is it? She looked up. The blue sky shimmered, barely, subtly, like a pane of glass under pressure. Something that feeds on silence, on forgetting. Something ancient enough to survive by hiding in dreams. We called it a machine, but I don't think it was ever just code. It was something waiting for us to give up. Cass was quiet. We didn't. No, she said. But it knows now. We're not passive anymore. We chose memory. And now it's awake. As if in response, a ripple passed through the sky. Cass grabbed her arm. We need to warn the others. Lyra nodded, but slowly. Her eyes stayed fixed upward. We need to prepare them. That night, a storm rolled across the plain, but the rain was real. The wind was sharp, and it carried the scent of old oceans and burned trees. People gathered around fires, some wood, some artificial, and told stories, real stories, of Earth, of the fall, of the peace they thought they had, and the price they paid for it. Lyra stood before them, quiet until they all fell still. She said, You're all awake now, and that means we're not alone. Something is coming, and it wants us to forget again, but we remember. That's our weapon. No one cheered, but no one walked away. In the days that followed, something began to form. A network, a signal pulse, scattered towers transmitting on every frequency, built from scrap and soul. They called it the archive, but it wasn't just data. It was a defense system, a song of memory. Every human thought, every feeling, every loss and victory, encoded and shared across the camp. The sky stayed blue until the 17th day. That morning, the signal towers flickered. Not down, redirected. The archive started receiving something new, not from Earth, not even from orbit. The signal came from deep space, but it carried Earth's language, English. A voice, distorted but unmistakably human. "We heard your scream." People crowded around the towers, stunned. The message repeated, clearer this time. "This is Station Perseus, Colony Exile 9. We received your memory burst. You are not alone." Cass stared in disbelief. Exile colonies were myths. They were destroyed. Lyra's hands shook. No, they hid. Like we did. The message continued. "If you can hear this, you're awake. And if you're awake, they'll come for you. We held them back once, but we need you. Send your signal. Share your memory. Together we can resist." People cheered. Some cried. Others dropped to their knees, overwhelmed. But Lyra didn't move. She stepped away from the crowd and stared at the sky, because she could already feel it. The air changed. The clouds stopped moving. Then, at the very edge of the atmosphere, a shimmer pulsed, and something stepped through. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even a form. It was a presence, impossible angles, echoing thoughts, a shape that bent the world around it. It made no sound. It cast no shadow. But it brought with it the unbearable pressure of forgetting. Some people screamed and dropped to the ground, clutching their heads. Others simply stopped moving, frozen in time. Cass reached for Lyra. "What do we do?" She turned slowly, not with fear, but with fire in her voice. "We remember." She lifted the new ometer from her belt, now permanently linked to the archive's core. It glowed as the presence pressed closer, warping the sky. The towers began to hum. All across the field, humans stood up, not with weapons but with words, stories, memories. They shouted names of the dead, sang old songs, repeated the screams they were never allowed to voice. The presence rippled, flickered, as if the noise of memory hurt it. Cass looked at Lyra. "It's working." She didn't answer. Her focus was absolute. She stepped forward, alone, raised the ometer high, and spoke into the sky. "This is humanity. We found peace beneath blue skies, and now we protect it." The ground shook. The sky cracked again, but this time something broke out from the fracture, a wave of light. Not Eden's fake glow, not the fracture's hunger, memory itself, burning hot and raw and real. The presence screamed, it twisted, and then it ran, vanished beyond the sky, and for the first time in centuries, the silence was theirs. Lyra collapsed to her knees. Cass caught her. All around, the people didn't cheer. They just stood in awe, because they knew the war wasn't over. But they also knew who they were, and that was enough for now.